Well, this weekend, the NCAA tournament is right here in Columbia at the CLA. The women's basketball team will take on Savannah State, a team that they've already played and won pretty easily. Of course, then the next game is going to be Nebraska versus Syracuse. So the captain, Carey, we talk basketball, is here, joining me now in studio. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit of the men's basketball, kind of wrap up their season, Captain. But we were at the selection show, and you like this bracket at their #1 seed in the Greensboro region. We did talk about North Carolina kind of sitting there. Florida State's also in that region. But overall, do you like what they kind of accomplished and where they are right now?
Well, certainly I like what they've accomplished this season. While I like the bracket starting out in Columbia, the North Carolina team does concern me just a little bit being played at playing in Greensboro. But I do agree with you. After thinking about it the last couple of days, I do think South Carolina is going to outdraw if those two teams indeed get to Greensboro and match up against each other, South Carolina and North Carolina. Outside of the North Carolina team being placed in the bracket, I think it's very, very favorable.
Well, you keep saying if indeed they get there, but I mean they beat Savannah State. Savannah State's a good basketball team. They beat Florida, an SEC team, and of course I don't see any way South Carolina loses at home to any of these teams. I mean, the crowd is crazy. I think Dawn Staley today tweeted that they have 8,000 tickets, I believe, sold already. She said up and up the number. There's no way that either of these teams are going to beat South Carolina in Columbia. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I don't think so, and I do expect South Carolina to win, but it is March Madness, and we see crazy, crazy things happen in March Madness. Now, we hope South Carolina isn't going to be subjected to any of that craziness, but it's still a possibility. Yes, I expect South Carolina to get out of the Columbia Regional and get to Greensboro. Once they get there, then it becomes just a tad bit more challenging.
Now, quickly, we talked about North Carolina. That was that team. I asked her about that, team that they seem to can't beat. They beat them twice last year, but they're not as good. They lost their best player, the Paul Pierce of women's basketball, transferred to Tennessee, is out this year. South Carolina is a better team. I like South Carolina's chances in the Greensboro region because I think who's going to beat them, Captain? I mean, they are the best team. They're #1 seed for a reason.
Well, they are the #1 seed, but they still have to take care of their business. They still have to be good enough in between those lines for 40 minutes to get it done. While I think they will get it done and advance to the Final Four down in Tampa, you still got to let it play out. You still got to allow that team to go out and be its absolute best in between the lines for 40 minutes. I think it's going to happen. I'm confident that it's going to happen, but guess what? It still needs to happen.
It will happen. I'm pretty certain of that. Now, the men's basketball team, of course, they ended the season losing to a Georgia team that they've beaten twice up until that point of the SEC tournament. But you got to feel good about how they ended the season. The first winning season in 6 years for the men's basketball team. And I know it's not an NIT. They're not going to pay $340,000 to play in the CBI tournament. But if, as a fan, I tweeted this, you got to be something wrong with it. You don't think this team is better than they were 2 years ago.
Well, this team is on an upward trend, and I think they showed that not only with the way they finished the season, but go back to late December, early January. Now it forces you to replay the conference games, the conference schedule, and you think about the closeness that these guys were in. So many games. I was down with the coaching staff today, and that's the one thing they talked about, the closeness of so many games in conference play, and just a few needs that need to be satisfied, need to get a little bit more athletic on the perimeter, guys that are knockdown shooters also, and more importantly, got to get some help in the post. Got to get more athletic guys that are able to get up in traffic amongst other 6'8", 6'9" and make plays. That was something that they were missing. This team has a chance to be very, very special next year with the additions of P.J. Dozier, Chris Silver. Those guys are good enough as high schoolers to come in and impact the basketball team next year. So those are the needs that they're trying to satisfy this offseason. They're off and running right now. They're busy. They were down in the office today, and I was even kidding with them. I said, hey, man, I didn't know basketball coaches did this much paperwork, but they're busy, and they're trying to satisfy some of those needs in hopes of a very, very good basketball season next year.
I think so. I think when we talk about the NIT next year or NCAA tournament, South Carolina is going to be right there. Well, that's going to wrap things up here for sports, and we'll come back and wrap things up in just a moment.